All right, let's jump right into a really fascinating puzzle. We're going to peel back the layers on one of the most mysterious books ever written, Ibn Arabi's Meccan Revelations. And trust me, it's a story about a book inside another book, all wrapped up in a mystery that's centuries old.
So that brings us to the big question, the one that kind of frames this whole thing. It sounds like a riddle, right? Why would anyone need an explanation of a book? I mean, it sounds a little over the top, but the answer tells this incredible story about how ideas, how knowledge actually travels through time.
Okay, so to get our heads around this, we're actually not going to start way back in the past. Nope, we're going to begin with the most recent piece of the puzzle, a scholarly work that came out at the very end of the 20th century.
And here it is. This is our starting point. What you're looking at is a 1999 publication by the scholar Yusuf Ziadan. But, and this is key, this isn't a new book. It's better to think of it as a kind of time machine, a modern, critical key designed to unlock a very, very old door.
Now here's where it gets truly mind-bending, the sheer scale of this conversation. This one single project connects three brilliant minds across more than 800 years. I mean, think about that. They never met, of course, but they were all laser-focused on the exact same colossal piece of work.
So let's just trace this incredible chain of scholarship. Way over on the right, you've got our modern editor, Yusuf Ziadan, publishing in 1999. Now, he's working on the text of a guy named al-Karim al-Jili from all the way back in 1423. And al-Jili, well, he was writing about the work of the great mystic Ibn Arabi, who finished his book in 1240. We are literally talking about an intellectual baton pass that stretches from medieval Spain all the way to a modern printing press.
Okay, so let's do it. Let's peel back that first layer. We're going to jump in our time machine and go from 1999 all the way back to the 15th century to meet the first scholar who decided to tackle this intellectual Everest.
His name was al-Karim al-Jili. And you got to understand, he wasn't just another writer. He saw himself as a guide. He knew that Ibn Arabi's work was so deep, so complex that future generations were absolutely going to need a map to help them navigate it. So that's what he set out to create, a guide to its most difficult territory.
And this right here shows you just how important that modern scholarship is. On the left, you see a page from an original manuscript of al-Jili's commentary. It's centuries old, it's faded, it's almost impossible for most people to read. But on the right, that's the exact same text from Ziadan's modern edition. It's clean, it's clear, it's accessible. Without this incredibly detailed work, al-Jili's amazing insights would basically be lost to history, available only to a handful of specialists.
And this quote, it just perfectly sums up his mission. In his own introduction, al-Jili says his goal was to tackle the mushkilat, which basically means the difficult problems of Ibn Arabi's text. He literally saw himself as someone opening locked doors to a treasure chest of knowledge that might have otherwise stayed sealed forever.
All right, now we go deeper. We travel back past the guide all the way to the source of the mystery itself. We've arrived in the 13th century, and we're about to meet the author of the original work, a man whose ideas would spark awe and a lot of debate for the next 800 years.
This is the man, Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi. He's just a towering figure in Islamic thought, often known by this incredible title, al-Sheikh al-Akbar, which means the Great Sheikh. And he really was. He was a philosopher, a poet, a mystic from Andalusia whose influence, well, it's hard to even put into words.
And this number? 560. That's the scale of his masterpiece, al-Futuhat al-Makkiya, or the Meccan Revelations. 560 chapters. Seriously, this isn't just a book, it's more like a universe of ideas, a vast ocean of spiritual and intellectual thought.
Even modern scholars have a hard time trying to pin it down. As Dr. Afifi put it, just calling it a huge encyclopedia, it just doesn't do it justice. It weaves together theology, philosophy, cosmology, personal spiritual visions. It's something completely unique.
And this is maybe the most crucial point of all. Ibn Arabi himself said that this massive work wasn't just something he thought up. He claimed it was directly inspired, that it was revealed to him while he was in Mecca. That's where the title, the Meccan Revelations, comes from. And this claim that its source is divine is central to both its mystique and, its difficulty.
So what were these problems that al-Jili felt he had to explain? I mean, what makes this book so notoriously difficult that it required centuries of commentary? Let's break it down.
Yeah, reading the Futuhat it's not like reading a normal book. For one, Ibn Arabi uses this incredibly dense, symbolic language, where a single word can have like 5 different layers of meaning. He even invents his own complex terminology you have to learn. The sheer scope of it is just overwhelming. And he just fluidly moves between deep metaphysical philosophy, interpretation of scripture, and then suddenly he's talking about his own spiritual visions. It's a text that demands, like, all of your attention, intellectually and spiritually.
Okay, let's just take one example to give you a taste. The concept of al-insan al-kamil, or the perfect human. Now, this isn't about being morally perfect, like never making a mistake. For Ibn Arabi, it describes a state of being where a person becomes a perfect, tiny reflection of the entire universe, like a polished mirror that reflects all the attributes of God. It's a super profound idea, right? It really challenges our usual ideas about the creator and creation. And that's just one of hundreds of concepts like this in the book.
Okay, so after that deep dive through history, let's bring it all back to today. Why does any of this matter now? I mean, why would a scholar spend years of their life hunting down dusty old manuscripts?
Well, because this is what it takes to keep our shared human heritage alive. A scholar like Yusuf Zidan basically becomes an intellectual detective. They're hunting for manuscripts in libraries from Cairo to Istanbul to London. They have to carefully compare every single version, looking for tiny mistakes or changes made by scribes over the centuries, all to produce one clean, verified text. This whole critical process has a name, tahqiq. And only after all of that work is done can they even begin to add their own notes to help a modern reader like you or me understand what's going on.
So the takeaway here is that this isn't just some dry academic exercise. Far from it. This is a profound act of cultural preservation. This kind of work takes a foundational text of human spirituality, one that was basically locked away in manuscripts almost nobody could read, and it makes it accessible for a whole new generation of thinkers and seekers and students.
And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. This incredible chain of scholarship, stretching across 800 years, managed to save this one masterpiece. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other brilliant, world-changing books are out there right now, just sitting in archives, waiting for someone dedicated enough to bring them back into the light? What other intellectual treasures are still out there, just waiting to be uncovered?